today I've come to have a little sit down and chat with you all because I'm feeling in a really reflective mood actually. Today is my daughter's first birthday. It's actually crazy. This year, I swear to you, this year has been the fastest 12 months of my life. So much has happened this year, but my baby, going from a baby to a toddler, has definitely been the craziest for me, the biggest whirlwind. But I'm feeling really reflective, and I think if you're a parent, you know, whenever your child has a birthday, it makes you start thinking back, you know, where's the time gone? And that's what I'm experiencing now for the first time. And with all this thinking and reflecting that I've been doing, sitting for the last couple of weeks when my daughter goes to bed, scrolling through pictures of her when she was first born and when she was 3 months and 4 months, and my husband's been doing the same actually. But in all that time, I've really had, you know, the opportunity to think about what I've learnt. And that's what I wanted to share in this video, 10 things that I've learnt in this last year from becoming a mum. And this video is not just for me to reflect, but also I thought it might be quite useful for anybody who's about to become a new mum. It's not just 10 things I've learned, but it's also advice that I would give to any new mum. And actually there are, let me think, 6 people I know personally that are having babies next year. Oh, well, sorry, having babies this year between March and June. And 2 of those people are 2 of my very best friends, and so I guess I'll dedicate this video to them. It's just a bit of advice that, you know, I've come up with after a year of motherhood. It's so crazy to say that still. But number 1 is just try not to have any expectations. Now, I'm a very type A person. I plan everything, and so if you can imagine, when I got pregnant or when I was trying to get pregnant, I was imagining what my life would be like with a child, and I was imagining how this child would fit into the life that me and my husband had. Welcome to the good life. And you know, I made all these plans, but you know what? There's that saying where you know, make plans but God will just laugh at them because you know, God's got a different plan, and that's the same with children as well. My daughter came along and all the expectations just, you know, were blown out of the water. And when people try and think about what their life will be like with children, what I would say is, if you have a desire in your heart to have kids, just go ahead and do it. Stop worrying about, you know, how will this child fit into my life, because what I've discovered is that your life completely changes. My priorities, my mindset, everything is so different to before I had my daughter. So, you know, get rid of those expectations. If you feel like it's time to have a baby or you're about to have a baby, just go with the flow. And I'm not a very go with the flow person. The baby will force you to do that anyway. But instead of having sleepless nights trying to plan things out, you know, just see what's going to come up, see what's in store. So my second thing that I've learned is instinct. As a doctor, I always like to, whenever a child comes to me, and whether they come with a parent or, you know, a grandparent or whoever it is, their usual caregiver, if that person tells me there's something wrong with the child, I believe it, because I've always believed in parental instincts. And but this has become more and more apparent to me as I've become a mum myself. Now, I might know the doctor, health, medical things of, you know, raising a child, or not even raising a child, of having a child, but actually raising a child is completely new to me. And so there's so many things that I just did on instinct. I didn't realise, but she'd be crying or not settling, or she'd, whatever it is, fussy, not sleeping, and I just know what to do with her. And so another piece of advice and thing that I've learned as well is to just trust your instinct. If there's things that you don't know, there's obviously people around you can ask. You can go to your doctor, you can go to your friends, you can go to your family members that have had kids before, but really trust your instinct. If you carry this child, I know there's lots of different situations people become parents, but if you as a mom have carried this child, you already have that bond from as soon as they come out of the womb. And so, you know, just trust your instinct. Number 3 is something that I really believe in and I've really learnt, and that is what is right for you and your family, for your baby, your partner if you've got a partner, is right for you guys and might not be right for anybody else. Now, I have a lot of family and friends. I have a big family, and lots of people have had children before me, and friends that I became moms before I did, and they do things in a particular way that works for their families, whether it's the way in which they feed their child, discipline the child, how they do bedtime, anything like that. And people often want to give you lots of advice. You know, this is what worked for me, this is what worked for when the baby was teething, or this is how we sleep trained, or this. And everyone's got lots of advice to give. But my thing that I've learned is that what is right for my family is just that, what is right for my family, and it might not work for yours. And what you're doing with your family shouldn't dictate what I should do with mine. And it's again going back to that instinct, but also understanding how your household works. If you're someone that gets up very early and has to go to work, and you've got to get the child up as well, you might be someone that chooses to have an earlier bedtime so your child gets enough sleep, and you might be quite strict with that. Or you might be somebody that is more, laid back with bedtimes, and you aren't strict with bedtime routine, and you let the child get whenever they do, because that's what works for your family. There's no right or wrong answer. Number 4 is be kind to yourself. Now, especially when I first gave birth, in those what they call the 4th trimester, those first 3 months, I used to say some really negative things to myself about, not knowing what I'm doing, or not being good enough, or being a rubbish mom, or, failing in this because my child wasn't sleeping, or whatever it was. I had this really bad negative self-talk, and I've heard it said many times before, but the way in which I spoke to myself, the thoughts that I had, if somebody else spoke to me like that, I would never stand for it. And I would never talk to somebody else like that. And, becoming a mom is like a completely new role that you've really had no preparation for. Even though you might, think that you've prepared, you've gone to parental classes and stuff, becoming a parent, until that happens to you, there's no way that you can really prepare for it. And so, obviously, there's no manuals for being a parent. The child doesn't come with a manual. And so you'll make mistakes, or you'll learn things along the way, but just be kind to yourself, give yourself some grace, and that's definitely something that I've learned to do over this year. Just be nice to myself and speak how I would want someone to speak to me, and also how I speak to others. The next one is live in the day. Now, I'm definitely someone that is always planning for the future, looking forward to the future, whether it's a trip or a new job or whatever it is, I'm always looking forward to the future. But having a child, and especially having a child in a pandemic, has really made me just stop and pause. It's made me take time just to enjoy the day. Now, it's really easy to rush along your child, like, oh, I can't wait until they walk, or they crawl, or they do this. But I remember when I got to the point where maybe she was 4 or 5 months and she started rolling over, I started thinking about before, when she was completely not mobile. A lot of the memories of those first few months were quite foggy and vague, because I was so exhausted. I was looking forward to a time where I was sleeping more, was the main thing. And so I didn't really live in the moment then. And as soon as she became 4 or 5 months, I just started really regretting not remembering and enjoying so much, where she would just be laying on my chest all day long. And so even now, when I look back at those times, it's hard to remember exactly what I was doing through the day. It was partly because I wasn't very well, but even so, I just wish that I lived in the moment a bit more and not just kept rushing forward to the future. And that's definitely something that I've learned to do in the second half of this year. Every day that I spend with her, I just like to take loads of pictures and videos and just sit down and talk to her and stare into her face and make her laugh, because I just want to live in that moment, so that because the moments go so quickly that I've seen, at least I have the memories to look back on. The next one is kids actually sort themselves out a lot of the time. Yes, it's really important to be intentional when you're parenting and, try and do your best for them. But let me tell you, I spoke just a minute ago about sleep. Now, my child, she was not a good sleeper. She still struggles now, but she's just started sleeping through the night, thank God. But she wasn't a great sleeper. I really, really struggled getting her to sleep properly. I struggled getting her to nap. I remember it used to be the bane of my life. She would nap for 20 minutes, these tiny little cat naps. I'd put her down for a nap. I'd walk downstairs, get a drink, maybe go to the toilet, and she was awake. And I literally just had no time to breathe to myself. And I just kept thinking, reading all these different things about how to improve your child's nap, and just reading so many things and talking to so many different moms about what they've done, because, their child was sleeping better. And now she naps for like an hour and a half. And I don't actually think I did anything. Even though I've got all this advice, I don't think I did anything to change that. Kids often sort themselves out. We were stressed about things such as, oh, are they constipated? Or, and they're not eating properly, they're not sleeping properly, and trying to look for all these answers. But, kids are really resilient, and often if we give them enough time, they sort some of those things that stress us out themselves. And I hope that's something I can remember going forward, and if I have more children. But I know what kind of person I am. I'm still probably gonna stress. But if you can be better than me, try to just see how they develop and how they change. Okay, so I think we're on number 7, and this one is all about your relationship. If you're not a single parent, you're going through this usually in a partnership, and it's just that becoming a parent, going through pregnancy, the labour, the newborn period, the after newborn period, the whole thing, it really does start to shake your relationship. And I was listening to, I think it was the Michelle Obama podcast, and she spoke about a relationship being like a car. I think she'd seen like the way in which they manufacture cars. I could be wrong, but basically this is the analogy that she gave, and I couldn't agree more. But imagine that your relationship is a car, and if there's some nuts and bolts that are dislodged or anything, when you're driving along, you might not notice any difference, or when it's sitting there parked up, you might think that this car is perfect, wonderful. But I think some car manufacturers, what they do before they say that a car is ready to be roadworthy, they put it onto a machine to shake it and to see if any bits of, if there's any loose bolts that come away. And then you can see if the car really is quite stable. And that's the same thing with a relationship. Often your relationship can seem beautiful, perfect, and then you have a child and it shakes things. And any of those nuts and bolts that weren't securely fastened will start to fall out. And that happened in my relationship. I have a really good relationship with my husband, but having this little girl, this child, really, shook us. And it's not been anything majorly negative, but it did kind of bring up some areas, especially around communication, that we weren't aware of before that needed more work on. And so we've been able to do that, but be ready for it. If you need to go through marriage counselling, if you want to do that before you have the baby because you've already got some issues, because those issues that were there before will just become more heightened, or if you've gone through it and you're noticing that there's some changes in how your relationship is, what I've learned is that a child really does shake things, and so it just takes you being a bit more intentional with your relationship to keep it strong. And that actually brings me on to my next point. Everything takes intentionality. Everything that we do when we're parents, it takes your mind actually being engaged and working. That's what I've learned anyway. And I mean down to the smallest thing. Of course, with the big things, intentional parenting, that's what I'm all about. I want, especially when it comes to the point now where I'm having to start teaching her more things and, disciplining her, I want to be very intentional with that. Also, I want to be very intentional with feeding into her self-worth, her self-confidence, and speaking to her in a very intentional way. Also, with your marriage or your partnership, relationship, you need to be very intentional there as well. But even in other little things, day-to-day things, if I'm not intentional and really make a habit to do it, I won't eat. When she's awake, I just won't eat, I won't drink, or I have a hot drink and it will just go cold about 10 times, I'll heat it up and it goes cold. And the thing is, you just need to be intentional. For me to get out of the house, that I have to be intentional, and that's what I've learned. It does take a lot of, it takes a toll, it takes a lot of effort to be intentional all the time. And that's why I've also learned to, schedule in breaks as well. Whether it's going to work can be a break for me actually, or it's just getting a babysitter, which has been hard during the pandemic, but we've been able to have 2 or 3 evenings where someone's been able to watch her while she sleeps so that we can leave the house and have that break. Or if it's that my husband takes her away for a little bit of time, or she's at nursery for a day and I take a day off. Those kind of things are what you can do to give your mind a bit of a break. It takes a lot of effort to be a parent. I've definitely learned that. Number 9, this is the penultimate one, and this is all about your village. They say it takes a village to raise a child, and they're not joking. But there's people in your village or your support system more than just people to raise the child. For me, I've learnt that in my village, I need people that I can speak to. that can either, you know, take my mind away from some of the more stressful things, people that I can vent to, that I can have fun with, and people that can give me advice as well. Oh my goodness, I don't know what I would do without, you know, the other mothers in my life that have come before me and given me advice, or even just, you know, told me that I'm not alone when I was feeling quite stressed out and tearful. Now, unsolicited advice isn't great, like I said before, everyone's family is different, but advice when you need it is wonderful. And so that was a really important aspect of my village. But also I've learned that part of having a village is also finding people that you feel that your child is safe with. Because for me, I really do need a break. When I'm around my child 24/7, I find myself becoming drained and not actually offering her as much as I can. And so yeah, so having people that I feel very safe with her, being with, it actually allows me to relax my mind and not be worrying about her, and actually be able to recharge myself so that I can give more to her when I'm with her. So for example, my nursery, my parents.
What about me? What about me?
They look after my child when I'm at work, and honestly I go to work and all I do is concentrate on what I'm doing at work. I don't worry about my daughter because I know that she's safe. So that's what I've learned. Get a village, and that's a piece of advice to you if you're about to have a child, or you're a new mom or dad. Number 10 is the final one, and that is be ready for all the love. Oh my goodness, what I've learned being a mom is that the love that you feel when you've got this little child is just unbelievable. There's that romantic love that you might have with your partner, and you know that is a great love as well, but the love that you have for your child, it's just a different type of love. It's something that grows and grows and grows as the child grows and interacts more. It's this really selfless love, and it's just all consuming sometimes. And so I've learned how to love more unconditionally from having her. And just for you, if you're a new parent or about to become one, be ready for all the love. It's a lot. It makes you emotional, it makes you tearful, but it also brings a lot of joy to life. So that was the 10 things that I've learned in my first year of motherhood. I hope it was interesting. I just kind of wanted to come on here and vent a little bit and just get some things out of my mind that I've been thinking about. But I really do hope it helps some of you new parents out there as well.